Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Bharat, and I'm going to be this start. I'm going to be talking about a lot of things in this video and in the stream. Basically, we'll just give another 2 minutes for people to join, and we can get started. How's it going? My name is Bharat. I'm going to be this start. I'm going to be talking. Sorry about that. Hopefully, you guys do not hear the feedback. All right, just got few things tested out. Hi, Shakti Raj Singh Zala. How's it going? Hi, thanks for joining. Rafiq Biradar, good evening as well. We'll give another 1 minute probably to get started, and as well, I just need to make sure that I'm streaming properly. So if you guys cannot hear me, or if you guys are having some issues with the audio, do not forget to drop a comment so that I know. And if my audio is fine and my video is not, do not forget to drop that as well. I'm actually seeing my feedback. I'm actually seeing the video feed going live. Looks fine to me. If it does not look fine, you can definitely drop any questions, or you can drop any comments. Just a second, let me check few things out here. All right, this looks fine. All right. Oh, I'm back. Hi, Ben. Thanks for joining. Great. I guess we can get started. We've spent the 5 minutes looking for people to join, and we've definitely done that. So I'm going to be talking about bunch of stuff in this class, or in this stream. It's going to be fun because you're going to be doing stuff on live as well. You're going to be building things live as well. What's the first thing that you're going to be looking at? If you guys coming new and first joining this stream for the first time, I recommend you guys check out the previous stream as well, probably after this is done. But not necessarily that you need to definitely see that, because you're going to be taking a look into that. Like you're going to do some kind of a recap for the previous session as well. And then post that, you're going to be probably also learning to build a lot of stuff in this class. So there's going to be 2 hour, 2+ hour live stream. So let's get started, I guess. All right, so let me check my camera just a sec. Um, does it look fine? All right, my camera looks fine. We're going to be building a Flutter application, and this Flutter application is going to be like hands-on. I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff. I'm going to be showing you guys how to build as well as we go along, and we're going to be covering a bunch of concepts as well. So we're just going to be I'm just not going to be talking about Flutter, do this, do that, and stuff. I'm going to be explaining to you guys how this works, and we're going to be learning few additional stuff as we go along. Hopefully, this is zoomed in enough for you guys to see. If not, just drop a comment and I'll know that this is not fine for you. Let's get a thumbs up if the audio is fine. I guess few people are there. Anirudh Sharma, hi Anirudh Sharma, how's it going? Let's just drop a thumbs up if this looks fine, if the audio is fine, and you can just see the screen fine. And we'll get started. Can you get a thumbs up, please? Yes? Okay, Rafiq says yes, it's fine. Okay, cool. All right, so what we're going to do in this session is to, like I said, build a Flutter application. In the previous live stream, I built everything on the cloud or on the online stuff itself. Basically, we had the use of, or we made use of the Dart pad, where you can write bunch of stuff and you can test it out. It'll look good for a basic simple application. You can still do this entire session on the cloud or on the website itself. I'll drop a link to that. If you don't have any local setup created, you can still practice this on your local or on your browser itself. You don't have to have all these complex, or you don't need to necessarily have an IDE setup or an Android Studio setup and all of these things. So I'm just going to drop a link here. Just check that out. If you want, you can just open the same pad that we used last time, and you can probably move along. Necessarily, if you guys are going to build things seriously, I would highly recommend you to have a local setup done. The local setup is primarily done via Android Studio, which is the recommended version or recommended way from the Flutter itself. And if you don't have that, you can still use Visual Studio Code as well as an IDE to build. And like I said, not necessarily that you need to do that. If you have that, it's great. You're gonna be picking things up faster. If you don't, just make use of the Dart pad and create your own stuff, and we'll move along. So what's going to be available for you guys in this session? In the session, we're going to be looking to build a profile page application. In the previous one, we did a Tinder application, which is just a one pager. We learned the basics of Flutter and we built a complete application in about 1.5 hours time. But in this one, I'm going to be taking you guys through a little bit of complex and advanced concepts as well. Not necessarily advanced, but whatever is required to build a Flutter application from scratch. So what you're going to be primarily looking into is learning about routing and how you route from one page to another page and go back, and when you clicks a button, how do you go back and forth and things like that. Followed by that, you're going to take a look into or dive deep into the Flutter plugins and how you can make use of these Flutter plugins to probably build faster applications. And Flutter itself is a cross-platform development framework built by Google. I'm pretty sure most of you guys would already know that. So in this session, we're going to be doing that. We're also going to be taking a recap of the previous session as well. So do not worry, I have all of the bases covered. I've put it as an hands-on class that will use your local setup and an emulator. If you don't necessarily have that, you can still do that on your Dart pad. So Kishan Mishra, what should be next set after I'm able to build UI? After this session, I'm not sure what the exact question is, but if you're asking me what should be the next stuff from here, is to you can build applications, and next step I'll teach you guys or show you guys how to build an APK and release it into App Store and things like that. We can definitely follow up with that. So okay, if you are able to build an UI, you will also be seeing database storage and how you can store your data in the cloud and things like that can also be done. I have a specific session planned for Firebase and how do you integrate your Flutter application with Firebase and store your local data. And not just your local data, you can do authentication with Firebase, and a lot of things are also available. So I'm going to be taking it as part of the next session. For this session, however, we're going to be primarily targeting building your local code, making sure that you are able to build a good application, making use of an emulator for faster APK building, and all of that are going to be part of the session. So let me quickly take my pen out. You can stop me anytime, ask me any questions, I'll be able to answer. So let's move along. As you see, I have my Android Studio open. You guys can do that as well. If you don't have Android Studio, have Visual Studio Code built and created, and that should save you guys the problem of, like, if you want to do things for serious purposes, you can still do that. Let me close all the non-usable applications. All right, guys, so let's get started. So what we're going to do is have a quick recap of what we did in the previous video. The previous video quickly took a look into what is declarative style and what exactly does declarative style mean. And Flutter uses a lot of declarative style, and it's actually built on top of a programming language called as Dart. And Dart is basically a simple way of writing code. I mean, you don't have to necessarily have the usual stuff that you do in other frameworks or other languages. So what declarative style does is that you will see for yourself in most of the places you will have programming languages like Java, and that always requires you to have objects written and things like that. You need to have an object, and only if the object is built, you can access the data from that, and you can access the class, you can access the methods, and all of these are required, right? But what declarative style does is that it just gives you an easy way to build stuff. All you need to do is just find the class, just get the class name, open brackets, close brackets, and fill the key. You should be knowing the key, what the key does, and you'll be writing your values here. So similarly, another key here, another value here, and things like that. It's making it easy for the developer in us to build things faster, and that's what declarative style is. And I would love to do a dive deep here, but we looked specifically into what declarative style is and how Dart works and things like that in the previous session. So just take a look into that if you guys are okay with that. Moving on, we have the next, which is actually going to be the life cycle of an application. And life cycle of an application is very, very important to know and understand how we are going to be doing stuff in this session. The life cycle says that everything that you create, like every application that you create, has a starting point and it has an ending point as well. If you open an application, the life cycle begins there. Widgets are created, application starts, and it goes inside the application. And when you decide to close the application, even if you move out to the home screen, the applications is going to get it's going to get killed, and probably that's the end of the app lifecycle. So this is a simple diagram that you see very frequently in Android videos and things like that. It's also a simple example to show what are the different things that are available as part of a mobile application. And the mobile applications is not just about opening a screen, closing a screen. It has a lot of things going on in the background, and that's what we're going to be looking into. So just done a simple diagram here. Basically, I've just said it has a birth, which is going to be where the application enters, and the death is where the application exits. And usually the activity that you're talking about here, you can think about them as a screen. Screens are basically nothing but let me quickly have a simple, I'll insert a new slide here. All right. Let me remove this and I'll draw you guys a simple one. So you can think about screens, multiple screens here. Look, the app has 3 screens. Let's say that you're using a Facebook application. What you see first is a simple UI that's asking you for like a username, login, and things like that. This is the screen 1. And you can think of this as an activity. And once the activity is moving to another screen, let's say that it's actually taking you to the live feed screen. And when application moves from this screen to this screen, this activity is killed and this activity is born. So that's how the application works, one screen after another. And Flutter does something similar as well. It's using the same concepts of birth and death, and Flutter does use the concept of building a widget, and once the building is done, it's talking about destroying the widget. So destroy and build are going to be the life cycles that you will frequently see as part of Flutter. All right, so we have done, like I'm repeating again, an extensive look into what and how this entire thing works. But for this session, we are now going to move forward and talk or learn about how you can build the screen from one to another and communicate between the screens, pass data, get back data, and all of those things are going to be present. I would like to take this session as part of like building an application itself. So this is what I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using an Android Studio, and Android Studio is basically where you have this this awesome IDE that provides you with all kinds of local code and setup, and also an inbuilt, probably you can call it as an emulator setup done. I'm going to firing up this emulator in a minute's time, but we'll just take a look into a basic code that is going to be we're going to require. All right, even before you go to stateless widgets, let's start the IDE up. All right, we have the IDE here, and all you need to do is just say that you have your Visual Studio Code fired up. All you need to do is just go here, click a new Flutter project, and as you click on this Flutter project, it'll ask you what you want to do. I just say I want to do a Flutter application. You click next, you fill out the data, and next, and finish it, and you will have this IDE setup and this entire project setup. Let's say that you are building it on the dartpad.dev. You don't have to do any of that. I'll just open the dartpad as well right here. We have it right here. So this is the dartpad. We saw about this in the previous session. It just automatically gives you this code in the left and the output in the right. So if I trigger this, we did this example, or I should say we built this application in the previous session. So it'll just build this quick application and you will have things created. It should work in a minute. All right. So we just call it Tinder because I can swipe left, I can swipe left, I can swipe right, and I'm just gonna say I'm matched. Excuse me, guys. So this is a simple thing that we built. I mean, this is not like a great application, but this gave you guys the understanding, or this would have given you guys the understanding of how the Flutter itself works. We wrote this much code, so again, I'm not going to be repeating everything. I'm just going to give you a brief introduction into what stateless and stateful widgets are, and we will get started writing some good code. What exactly is a stateless widget? And stateless widgets are basically something that do not hold any data. Now, if you say do not hold any data, what exactly are you going to be referring to? Stateless widgets basically are something that do not need to remember what the previous state was, or you can think of them as data that is actually being, you can think of them like static data. Now, let's say there's an application, big application, and you have something called as the footer. In the footer, you say copyright off or something like that, right? When you say copyright off, this data is not going to always change. It's going to remain the same throughout the application. So what you will do is you don't have to create a lot of memory for this. You will just put it in a stateless widget and drop it in the bottom or the footer, and voila, we are done. That's what stateless widgets do. Now, stateless widgets are necessarily not something that's going to see a change. Basically, these are things that you can think of as that's not going to require change on that moment. You can still have a stateless widget and do some changes inside it, but it's not going to be through the life cycle of the application that it's continuously going to change. Dynamic data, on the other hand, should be handled via something called as a stateful widget. Now, stateful widgets are dynamically going to change every time. You have some HTTP data coming in, you have a bunch of things like JSON and things like that. That's going to be always coming inside the UI. And what you will do at that point is that you will quickly say, that's basically this, where is my mouse moving? All right, here's my mouse. So you'll say user is here and user has some JSON data, and what next is that this UI will be basically changing, and you'll always change this UI every single time something new comes in. And these applications or these use cases are going to be handled via the stateful widget. All right, so that's what is the basics of Flutter, just the two widgets. And we're going to be nextly looking into understanding about first code. You're going to be building a UI. Now, this is something that I always practice. If you want to build a UI, do not just directly jump in and start writing code. That is not how people do. When you want to build an application, that is always good to have some kind of a UI mockup created. Mockups needn't be always complex things that is completely designed and things like that. Just a simple way of understanding what you need is enough. So just do a simple slide here, and we'll quickly have fun designing a simple page. What this application is going to do is it's going to have bunch of stuff here. It's going to have two pages. I'm not going to do multiple pages, but let's see how the application goes. The first page is going to be like this. It's going to say welcome, and we'll just consider this like an assignment application. Now, assignment number here, and we'll have basically to assignment number, and we'll say the date. We'll enter the date, and when your user clicks on this button, it takes you to this profile kind of a page, and this profile page will have basically your some photo here, and it will say your status, and we'll have a bunch of stuff like data about your previous 4 assignments or something like that. All right, this is going to be my UI mockup. Very, like, how do you call it? You can call it as very crude and rough kind of UI mockup. This is enough for me to understand what I need. So immediately as soon as I look into it, I think this is going to be screen 1, and the screen 1 has a simple text on the top. This is going to be a bold text, followed by the 2 input fields. And as soon as I get the data from these 2 input fields, I'm going to click a button that's going to take me to the next page. And the next page, I have a simple image, few bunch of text fields, and few bunch of data again here. So this is going to be the simple UI mockup that you're going to try to build as part of this session. All right, so any questions so far, you can drop them down, and I'll be very happy to answer it. So we'll just take a quick check as to if there is any questions. If somebody is just joining this stream for the first time, you guys missed out on the previous stream or something like that, you can ask me like basics Flutter questions, and we'll take that question first, and then we'll move along and start with the code. Drop any questions that you have down below and I'll be able to answer them. All right, so the first question is from Sumit. He asked, should we learn block while learning Flutter? So to those who do not like know what block is, block is something called as a state management, or basically for data management. And block is like a design pattern. You can think of that as like an developer created pattern. And there's this amazing video that I found out previously, where there's this Flutter developer who talks about design patterns and things like that. Now, design patterns are obviously necessary, and for this session, we're not going to be obviously looking into state management and things like that, because you can consider them as like kind of an advanced topic. But for a block, when you say about block and state management, it is absolutely not necessary to learn Flutter. You don't have to understand what block is to learn Flutter. If you're doing it as part of Flutter, you've already understood how to build applications and you want to build things faster and also keep them lighter, then you go for state management. State management is just a technique to probably enhance your application. You don't necessarily need to know this to be a Flutter developer. The Flutter itself does a great job of managing the states, and states are nothing but you can consider them as data. You have block of memory here, you have a processor here. Now this application has to run smoothly, right? So it always keeps communicating with the memory block, and it always communicates with the processor. And what Flutter does in the background, or the Dart is the programming language that Flutter is built upon, it is doing a great job by itself. But the block, and there are a few other few other state management libraries like getx and things like that, that actually improve the speed. And if you are going to be learning Flutter and you are like very well comfortable with building applications, you can definitely check state management out and learn things like that. But not necessarily that you need to know state management only, then you can learn Flutter, nothing like that. Hopefully that answers the question, and we'll not be looking into any of this, so anybody who is joining now do not need to confuse about it. So far we've looked into what stateless and what stateful management is, and or stateful widgets are, and it's time to build our first UI, or basically we're going to be building some basic stuff. I'm going to be firing up my Android Studio. I'll just close this, or I'll just keep it closed for some time. And what we'll do next is to start with this simple code, and we'll just fire up my emulator. And now emulators are just local, you can consider them as local mobile applications or mobile phones that will just, you don't need to have you necessarily needn't have like a full-blown phone setup. So let me go here and I'll start my emulator. It's actually kind of a heavy kind of a thing, so do not worry if you don't have like a very heavy processor, or like an top processor to run it. If you don't have, that's not a problem. Like I said, you can definitely make use of the Dart pair to work on it. You can definitely do that. All right, hopefully you can see the screen. I'm just going to do is this is something that's going to be built like a basic main dot file is going to be the base one that's going to build. It's like a template one. Just click on run here. It'll automatically do the building for you. It'll check for Dart and things like that, and it'll fire things up here. So it'll say launching lib main dot, which is the file that we are having. Just click on the run button and it will fire up your application in about 30 to 45 seconds if it's going to be running for the first time. Right, by the time this takes building, it will definitely take some time to build. It says that running Gradle task assemble debug. If you guys are able to see the bottom corner, I hope that you guys are able to see it. All right, PowerPoint went into auto recovery. All right, let's give it some time for it to build, and we'll take any questions in the meantime. So we've so far looked into what is a UI mockup, how you can design UI mockup, simple things. You can sketch them in your, probably in your paper, even in your paper, right? That's pretty much going to be very, very useful. Don't save. All right, I'm closing another one. Hopefully you can still see things. I'll check on the emulator. It's still not built. It's still building. Yeah, it's taking quite a long to build. Okay, we'll keep on here itself. We'll check things out now. Okay, before we go into routing and stuff, let's build our basic application. Any questions so far? We'll fire things up and we'll get started, right? Still not built. It's taking an enormously long time because I'm streaming as well and the processor is quite heavy. So we don't have to necessarily worry about all that. Drop any questions that you have till now. I'll be answering them till we get this thing to work, till we get this Gradle to finish building. And this is also kind of like a problem with your local setup, right? You have to make sure that your setup is clean and created properly, only then you will be able to run it. If you don't have a setup, or if you don't have like a thing locally running, like an probably you can think of it as a, if you don't have your ID present and things like that, you can use the .pad.dev. I've dropped a link in the chat box, so check that out. All right, this application is built, and it's saying that application is built. The debug APK is also built, and it is actually syncing files to HT101. No, I need to simulate it to here. Which is the one here? I wanted to go here. All right, but I don't know what's happening. Yeah, I wanted to build it here. I want this to stop. I wanted to build here. This phone. This is the phone that I wanted to build. It's building on some other phone or some other emulator. This is not what I want. Alright, so this basically is like an emulator and things like that. If you really have time to set things up, you can do it. If you don't, not a problem. You can just use your own phone and you can do things. All right, if you see the difference between the first and the second, you can see that the building thing was faster after you built it for the first time. The first building does definitely take some time. Right, let me check my video. Video is fine, but why is it not streaming? Awesome. So we got this figured out. It's actually running now. This is going to be the base application that usually you build it when you have your Flutter application created for the first time. You go here, open this application, click on this button, it will increment. And this is the base, basically base application that teaches you about understanding about stateless widget, stateful widget, and all of that. Right, let me close this up a bit. Just comment if you guys are able to see the code. Is it larger enough to see the, is it zoomed enough to see the code? If not, I'll try to zoom in for a little bit more. Are you guys able to see this code properly? Because we're going to be removing all of this and writing something that we need. Hopefully you guys can see the code. Close the badges. Yes, you guys can see this code. Well, I guess you guys can see the code. What I'm going to do is, to begin with, we're going to be having the stateless widget here and stateful, and understand that. As many of you know, there's like this entry point to the Flutter application is going to be the main app. The main wide main is going to be the entry point to any application. And without the wide main, the application will not have any point to start. And what you're doing as soon as you have the wide main is to have the run app as well. These are the two important methods. If you want to fire up your application, you have to have these two methods. And inside your run app, we are creating a stateless widget and you're firing that app. And the stateless widget is basically like a material app, which is the main one that we need. And the theme data, that is also the main one that we need. And it is just showing up the home screen. And the home screen is we removed it. So it's saying that home page is not available and things like that. So what I'm going to do is just remove this up because this is actually disturbing me. I'll go here, I'll put it inside here. I don't have to run app needn't be the class. So just have the material app here. This is much better, and you'll have my app. I remove the title and stuff because I don't need to give the title. All right, we'll basically return something like scaffold. Scaffold will be basically to say child. We'll have a simple text that says what's it though? It says All right, let me find it out, what we did in the previous session. So what I'm trying to do is to inside the void main and inside the run app, I'm just having the material app present there itself. And this is actually the block of code that you'll always need. Without this block of code, you will be like, the application won't be having an entry point to start. So this was all covered in the previous session. So hopefully you guys like are okay, cool, and looking into that. So just this is enough. So what you need to do is go here and just save this up, and it will automatically do something called as an hot reload, and it will just fire up this up here. It says that widget is scaffold main, no media query and present and things like that. So we'll just figure this out in a bit. So we'll just do a container. I'm not sure what code is running basically. This is like confusing me a bit. Hopefully this is the one that's getting fired up. All right. All right, I'm going to give a brief difference between the scaffold and the main app in a bit. I just want to figure out, like, I just want to quickly have you guys getting started in less than 1 minute, so that we can understand much more deeply about what happens. All right, let me do a scaffold, and I'll say the body. The body is going to be a container, and the container is going to have a child. A child will be text. This is my first app. All right, let's see if this is enough for us. This should be enough for us. All right, this is like not working fine. Okay, so let me answer the question first. In the meantime, I'll figure out, like, I'll tell you guys also what really happens. What is really throwing up all of this crazy error is because we removed the base one, and that's what is happening. So I'll have to remove everything from scratch and write. I'll to answer Kishan Mishra's question, what is the difference between the material app and the scaffold? Scaffold is like the widget that you need. The material app, on the other hand, is like saying, this is my blog, this is where you can actually do, you can write your code on top. And Flutter itself is like just like a building block kind of a framework. You take one widget, you put it on the block, you take another widget, you put it on top of that, and this keeps on going. And the scaffold is basically like the first widget block that you will take and put it on top of the plane surface. And what gives that plane surface is the material app. We are saying the application that we're going to be building is the material application, that's going to have all the theme and things like that being already written for us. We don't have to define all the themes from scratch. It's already written for us. Just make use of the theme, make use of the base layout, and then on top of it, keep putting things on top of each other. That's the scaffold first, and then you can put a text inside it, and you can go further and further and further like that, right? Hopefully I did answer that question. So what I'm going to do now is to basically check few things out, and I'll just get started with you guys. Any questions so far, guys? Hopefully you guys did get that part. I'm just quickly trying to figure one thing out, which I'll be doing in a bit time. All right, this should be enough for us. All right, I can explain much better from here. Sorry for the initial hiccup. What happened really was that we there was this base layout or base template that was created for us, and removed some class from somewhere, and it kind of broke everything loose. So what I have done here is that I have created something very similar. And if you guys are looking why I have the title Android Monks here, that's my website. You can check it out for all Flutter related content. We can just say first app or something like that. Is also run this, and nothing is being present here. So this is going to be the entry point of our application. We have something called as the void main. You can even replace this with open brackets, close brackets as well, and that's enough for us, right? What happens is the first method that you need is the main void main, like I said, and followed by that the run app is also required. Now if you see, the run app is firing up a class, and the class is basically this one here. This class is saying that I'm going to be returning a material application, or the material app is the class that is going to be having all the theme elements, all the stuff that we need, and is also going to give the application its title. And once the title and the themes are set, we're going to set the home for that application. Now think of this as basic like a big huge house. You have to have a gate to enter this house. You need to have basic flooring to actually live in this house, and all of this is being given by the material app. So once the material app is given, on top of it you can build our home, or we can build things like that on top of it. And that's what we are doing here. We are saying the home is going to be a scaffold. Now scaffold is like a good widget. This widget can have additional elements inside it. So this is actually where the declarative style of programming comes into picture. We are not creating any object, we are not doing any of that. We are deciding what is the key and what is the value. And if you see throughout the Flutter application, it will be of this form only. That will be a key, that will be a value, that will be a key, that will be a value. And the scaffold itself has its own key and value. The first widget or the first key that I'm going to be using is the body key. I'm just going to say body, and it will take any widget. You can have any widget inside it. Now you have constructed the flooring plan of your house, you have constructed the walls around your house, and inside this house you want to first put a furniture. And the furniture is where, say, let's say we have going to be putting something called as a container, and the container is to just hold things together in one place, and that's the first widget you're going to type. And the container will have a child. The furniture might have some people sitting on it, and we can just consider that as the text here. So just say text, and I'm just going to say this is my first app. I'll run it, and we'll see for us. You see, it's actually thrown the top, and that's pretty much how this works. All right, so it's actually throwing it right on the top, which is not what I want. It's actually not aligned properly. That is because we have to now give an app bar to it. And now app bar is like the top layer of an application that you all know about, and app bar will take a class of app bar. And we can now say things like inside, like what is the title? It's going to be a text for assignment app. Build it, do a quick reload, and it will give you that assignment app on tap. So what we're doing here is we're doing something called as a fast reload, and fast reload is also an amazing application or of the Flutter framework. It gives you the ability to build things faster, and you will see all of these fast coding tutorials and fast coding videos that is using this effectively. Now Flutter is actually the first one to introduce it, and there have been a lot of things following that as well. So what I've done is quickly build the app bar, which is the top bar right here, and you also have a simple text as well. Now let's say instead of just a container, I want to like center this whole thing. I just replace it with center, and you can see for yourself that it's right bang in the center of the screen. And now hopefully you guys understand how the Flutter application is going to be built. I'm just going to take some time here, and I just want to build this first UI mockup that we have. This UI mockup that we drew. We have a very rough sketch of a welcome bar. We have a rough sketch of two input fields. One is the assignment number, and the next is some data and a submit button or a simple button to click. So I'm going to be building that right now, and you can just scan. If you guys are following me, you can do the same as well. And as we go along, if you have any doubts, you can ask me. So one important thing is that do not forget to do not worry about making mistakes. And that's actually the whole thing about Flutter. Flutter itself is like a fast development framework. It is not like something you make one mistake and it takes hours and hours to debug and then again do some more changes and again test the things out. Nothing like that. If you make a mistake, you can just do a quick Google reference, you can find the mistake out, and you can just again get started from here. If you want me to help you guys, just drop a comment on the chat box and I'll be able to answer it as well. All right, time to build it. Hopefully I'm clear till now. If you have any questions, just drop it or give a thumbs up if you guys did understand till now. Is everything cool till now? Alright, so Sumit asks, tell us about media query because every mobile screen is different. That's true. If you see some minutes ago, I was getting this media query error only. The media query error or the media query is basically to find the size of the screen, size of the application, and size of the device itself or the mobile phone that you have. You needn't worry about media query. The primary reason being Flutter does a very good job of in the bottom handling all the media query and all the device related, app related, size related information, and then only rendering the application on top. And that's why you'll always hear this word called as cross platform. Irrespective of the platform that you're building it on, if you're building it for mobile, if you're building it for desktop, it will automatically scale to that size. I can even run the same code now, which I'm going to be showing towards the end. I can run the same code on something called as the web, or I can run it on as a web page itself, and no code changes are going to be done. I just need to run this or debug in it, put it in a developer mode and run it for the web, and it will create a beautiful web application without making any code change. So the Flutter itself is doing a good job of handling those device changes, UI changes, and things like that. So we needn't worry about it. Hopefully that answers your question. So let's get moving on. We have, like I said, we're going to be trying to build this simple UI mockup. So first thing we need is obviously a big welcome text on the top. So what I'm going to be doing is to inside my center, I'm going to be having a column. A column is a widget that is going to be doing the work for us. So I'm just going to be doing some trial and error as well. So we'll just see how this pans out to be. The first thing I'm going to be having is a text, and I'm going to be saying enter your assignment submission. I'm pretty sure you guys are submitting a lot of assignments now. So this is going to be the first one. This is the assignment submission. The next thing I'm going to take is the input text. I'll just take some data like text again. I'm just going to be now saying here assignment number. Just first of all drawing or doing the design markup. The next thing I'm going to be doing is what is your roll number. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm talking about, but I don't know how you guys submit assignments nowadays, and we'll just have that. Next one is going to be a raised button, or raised button is not available. We have flat button. I'll just see what button is available. Some button should be available, right? We'll see what button is available. Alright, we have floating action button, we have back button, close button, drop down button, elevated button. I'm happy with elevated button, and the elevated button should take an on press. So I'm just going to say an on press, have an empty data for now. Do not worry, this function is going to be empty, and the child is going to be another text, which I'm going to say something like this: submit. Save it, and you will see things rolling up. All right, so it's kind of like very congested here, right? So we'll just drop something called as a spacer. Spacer will automatically leave that space for us to expand it. This is a quick fix kind of an widget. It'll open it up, and too much of space is there. So we will have another spacer here as well, and after here as well. If you guys think I'm doing it super fast, just drop a comment so I'll know. All right, it's gotten pretty much closer, and that's what I expected to do as well. So the assignment submission, and this is going to be like a big block text. So first we need to make it big block text, and text itself is, like I said, declarative style of programming, right? So what we're going to do is in this one, we're going to be giving the next key. The key is going to be style. The style is amazing. There's a use case for that. So just say text style, and we'll say text style is going to be font weight is going to be font weight dot bold. I just wanted to make it bold, and if you see it's gotten bold. All right, we have done basic stuff here. We have the base first screen created. Hopefully like nothing complex we have done so far, and we just have like 4 text and 1 button. Nothing happens when you click on it. It just does that UI, that animation, but nothing happens. All right, so far we have done the first page, and we're going to be learning a concept called as routing. The routing is basically to take one data from a space A or point A and take it to point B. And because we need this data, when I click on the submit button, I need to open like another UI, and this UI should just have my face or my some photo on it and say that your application is successfully submitted. That's what I'm expecting it to do, right? So what we need for that is to understand the concepts of routing. Any questions so far, guys? I'll take like a one minute break. So probably my throat is also getting too itchy, so I'll just take 1 minute break. You guys can have any questions, you can drop any questions, and I'll just tell you guys how to work on it. Questions time. I'll just write questions as well here. Questions. Draw. Where's my pen? Where did the pen go? Oh, pen is here. Questions. All right, Sumit has another question. Can we store all style in one place and calling from there wherever we require? Great question, and that's what we usually do. And stopping and storing and styling and things like that. Usually, you will have to like if you want, you're going to be building a huge application. You want your application to look the same, right? You need to have it. You need to give the same color schemes and text fonts, and basically the font weight, font height, and all of that needs to be the same. So the best way to do is to save it in one place and make use of it as you build your application. That's like the best way to do it. Also like something called as a design standard, or you can think of it as a design practice, and that's part of the UI and UX. But for this one, we're not going about doing all that, because it's not like we are going to be building a huge application. We're just learning few things, the base structure of how Flutter itself works, and next concept is going to be about routing and things like that. All right, let me take just mute my audio quick. Drop any questions that you have. All right, so for no questions, so let's get moving on. We're going to be learning about the next stuff is going to be routing in Flutter. This is going to be the core topic that we're going to be covering for the next 45 minutes. We're going to be doing all of these steps here. We're going to be covering 4 important topics when it comes to routing. The first topic that you're going to look into is how do you route from one widget to another and come back. Now, when I say routing from one widget to another, I'm technically saying from one screen to another and coming back. And it's pretty much the same concept here. First thing you need to do is first of all build a widget, and let's go and look into that. So I'll just cover all these 4 topics one by one. The next topic you'll obviously be seeing is if you have multiple screens, how do you go from screen A to screen C, screen A to screen D, and multiple things like that as well. The third one you're going to be looking is transferring data. If you are going to be having some local data in your screen 1 and you want to transfer that data from screen 1 to screen 3 or screen 1 to screen 2, how do you do that? And finally, the cool topic of animating these transitions. You see often this cool screen animations that goes along when you click on a button. It does all this funky stuff and go to the second page, and from that you go back and things like that happens, right? So animation is actually part of that, and we're going to be looking into all these 4 topics individually, one after another. And the first one is going to be how do you route from one page to another. We're going to be using a class called as navigator, and this class is a very cool and important class, and it's also actually inbuilt in Flutter. That's how data is being transferred. So even before we are going to be starting with this routing and stuff, we need to have another screen, right? We have just one screen so far. We have like a very simple assignment app and things like that. So what I'm going to do is quickly design another app, another screen. So far, if you guys are following me along on the dart pad, it's this step is going to be easy for you. And if you're not following me on dart pad also, no problem. You can still write it here itself. Technically, what should happen is you need to open here, go to your lib, and this is where you find your main dart file. You will be creating another dart file to segregate your screens, and that's a good design practice. Since we are some people who might be following this session might be using the dartpad.dev as well, I would just write this code here. So because we're going to be writing the second screen, and we just call it as we'll call this screen as screen 1, right? Just do a quick refactor, screen 1. All right, and we'll call another screen. We'll be creating a quick stateless widget. So how do you do that? This technique I told you guys in the previous session. You can just create your stateful, stateless, and state animated widgets by just doing this technique. Just shortcut here, just put st and it'll automatically fill for you. I'm just going to be creating a stateless, so just go down and click enter, and it'll automatically fill things for me. I don't have to worry. I don't have to worry about it. I'm going to be calling this a screen 2, and I'm pretty much done. I'm just going to be replacing this with scaffold as well, and just going to be using the same scaffold here. It's going to be having the same app bar also, so put it here. And the next thing we need is the body. So the body is going to be having a center, and the child is going to be a column if you want. All right, and the children inside it will have an empty children. But it's I will run this, but you'll not be seeing the screen here. So if anybody who's watching this, tell me why that is not happening. Why are we not able to see the screen 2, and why are we still seeing the screen 1 only here? Anybody who's watching can answer that. Why are we still seeing only the screen 1? This is something that we built long ago, but we just now built screen 2. We are not able to see that. Correct. So we have not done routing yet. That is the correct answer. But also, what is also happening is that the entry point, right? The entry point is just coming from wide main, and the run app is calling only the screen 1. The screen 1 now has a material app as the return, and the material app is now having this whole thing being shown here. We don't have the screen 2 being shown, and even if you're going to be showing the screen 2, we will need a material app. We have just built the data inside the home only. We have not defined what exactly is going to be required. So what we need to do is just remove this material app and take this from here. And we need to create another material app for this. Just going to quickly comment it. The right answer is that the I don't know what's happening. So what happens is that the screen 2 is not being shown. Rather, only the first screen is having the base entrance. So we need to create that as well. The home is going to be a scaffold, and we need to also set the theme and the title. So we'll just do that right now. Go here and do it, and put a comma. Don't forget about commas. All right, so we have the screen 2 also shown, and we'll go over the top, and the entrance is going through wide screen 1, which is basically saying you have this whole community of houses, and you're just going into just the first door, and that's what we are seeing. Now just put screen 2 here. Mm, yeah, you should be seeing the screen too in a minute. All right, hopefully you guys did get it. This reload is not working, so I'm just quickly going to stop and start the application itself. So that's what is the actual reason. The input is via the screen one. It was via the screen one, and that's why that screen showed. And until you do a routing, what we just now did is manually remove the screen one and put screen two. But how do you do it programmatically? And that's what routing is going to be used for. I just want to show you guys how the screen two looks so that we'll know what the screen transition is going to be. In the meantime, I also just put some text inside here. Text this is screen two or something like that. All right, I think it is definitely showing an empty screen. We'll save it up. All right, we have the assignment app, nothing inside it, and this is also saying screen 2. So now we are able to see the screen 2. And previously, it was not showing because we didn't have that inside the run app. Now I'll just go back to screen 1 and I'll just show you or talk to you guys about how do you route from that screen to this screen. So this is going to be the screen, and this entire thing is going to be the screen. How do you route from that to here? Mm-hmm. All right, so to make our life so much easier, I'm going to quickly do something here. I'm just going to quickly modularize this entire code instead of just passing screen one here. First thing I'm going to do is to return the material app. I'm just going to say material app, right? And I'm just going to modularize this part. I'm just going to remove this entire thing from here. I'm going to put it here, and the home is going to be first screen one for me. All right, this is what we had previously also, and inside this I'm going to remove this. Yeah, I'm going to remove this and this. So basically I'm removing all the material app related code and I'm just directly putting it right inside. So this screen one is now going to be the screen one, and similarly I'll remove this as well. I'll just take this scaffold only and I'll remove this whole thing. I'll keep this. Right, this sounds much better, right? This seems much better. So we have the screen one, screen two running via the material app. Run it again. Don't worry about the errors, like I said. All right, we got it. So we got the screen one again, it's showing up the screen one. Now what we're going to do is from screen one, we're going to be moving to screen two. And in order to do that, we have to make use of a class called as navigator, and the navigator comes as part of the material dart itself. The first thing we're going to do is when the user clicks on this button, which is the elevated button, we need to do some action. And let's print for now. I just say this navigator is fired. All right, and when the navigator is fired, we're going to be saying navigator dot push. It'll automatically write it for us. It'll ask for two variables. The first is the context and the second is the route. And the context is usually what is the one that is giving you, or what is from where is it going from. It's like saying go from point A to point B. We are giving 2 points, right? Similarly, it is asking for the context of the current widget and what is the route or what is the place that I need to go to. That's what this navigator.push asks. And push is to say go from point A to point B. And in order to give the route, all we need to do is just give the class, go here and give the route. Just give the route. All right, so we had context, we had the route, and we need to define the route, right? We need to say point A is here, point B is here, and go via point A to point B. You need to put that road for it to go. And how do you put the road for it to go? There is another class called as material page route, and this is going to be setting the page, this is going to be setting the road for us, and it will automatically understand from where it need to go and which application or which class it needs to go to. It also actually takes the variable builder, and the builder is nothing but it takes the context, and we can just directly say screen 2. All right, so we just did some we just did write some code, and you can just drop a question if you have any. I'll be answering that. Hopefully you guys did understand this part here, what exactly or why exactly we're writing this. We have the context, we are saying the point is here, but how do you tell go to point 2? And in order to do that, you need to set a route, right? You need to set a road. What if there is there is one house of type which is actually an apartment, and there is another house which is not an apartment, it's actually an independent house? How do you say go from the flat 2A to this independent house of some other address? You set a path to it, right? You said this is the way that you need to go down 2 floors, take a straight road, take a left, take a right, and that's where you find the house. And that's exactly what this material page route is also doing. It is taking the class material page route, and we are setting the builder. We're just building things here and just saying go to screen 2, and this is the syntax for doing that. Now what we do is just run this application, do hot reload again, and when we just click on this, it will take us to the second page. Hopefully you did see the transition. Nothing will happen right now. If you see submit here, it will take you to the second screen which we have written here. This is going to be the second screen, and we can do stuff like write few more things here. I'll put a spacer, or I can even, yeah, I can put a spacer right here, another spacer. So nothing much is going to be there, but we'll just say username or candy student name. My name is Bharat, or I just go by the channel name Coder Monk. So you can write it and it will just be run, and you can put another spacer in the bottom to just center it a little bit more better. Okay, this is screen 2, student name is Coder Monk. We can say personal details. All right, personal details, student name is there. The next thing we can say is text. According to our UI mockup, we are going to be having last 4 submissions. And we can just say a few things like text here, assignment 1, 89%, and we can do the same thing again and again. I'll say assignment 2, assignment 3, assignment 4. Probably this is going to be like 79%, 91%. I was pretty poor in the last one, so I'll just say 70%. Don't forget to put a spacer in the bottom again to make sure that it looks better. All right, this looks much better than I expected it to look. So this is going to be the last 4 submissions. Again, put a spacer right here. All right, this looks much better, right? So you have the second personal details page, student name, the last 4 submissions. You'll just give the score for the last 4 submissions. Just the simple text. I mean, we're not just building the application directly. So hope you guys didn't understand how you're going to go from your personal or the first page, which is this one here, and when you click on the submit, through the concept of routing, we're going to the assignment page or the screen 2. Any questions till now, guys? I've checked the context is not okay. The context, Sumit asked, the context is for us or for the compiler understand itself. The context is not for us, it's for the application to know where it is starting from. So basically it's like saying you're just directing somebody else. Think of it that way. You're directing somebody else to go from point A to point B, and you're just going to define the point A, and you're basically telling the compiler this is where I am right now, and from here you go to point B, which is going to be the second part. And that's how the routing works. Hopefully that question should be answered right there. So this is going to be the concepts of the first one we saw. This is going to be like routing from and to and fro. And there's another method called as pop. navigator has a push and a pop. The pop just removes the screen that is on the top, and this is actually the concept of stacks. Now, stack is like this data structure concept where you have things written on top of each other, and that's exactly how the application also thinks of it. The Flutter also does. It is actually stacking things by having this is the screen one, and it's actually when you do a push, it is putting the screen 2 on top, and you are able to see this is where your view is basically, and you are saying after some time put another screen on top. It goes on top, and this is all happening through something called as a push. This is a push operation, and the navigator is able to put it on a stack, and you're able to see it. And suddenly you're deciding to just go back to screen 2, and what you do is by just doing something called as a pop. Now pop does not need a route, it just needs to remove whatever is on the top, and it will automatically show whatever is on below it. So if you just do a pop on screen 3, or for example this screen 2, it will just remove the current context out, and it will show the screen 1. If you do it on screen 3, it will just show the screen 2. Whatever is below it is only going to be shown. And that's how pretty much you construct the stack. And when you construct the stack to some height, you have multiple screens attached, and voila, you have your application created. And that's exactly how Flutter is doing things. Flutter is completely dependent on this concept of stacking and things like that. All right, any questions till now? Exactly, we have the back button that you saw. That's true. That's what is pop is going to happen. This is the back button that you have. You click on this back button, it is throwing or removing it out, right? And that's exactly how this is happening. That's yes, Sumit is right. He's asking if that is the one. Yeah, this is when you push, it goes to the screen, and then you want to pop it back, you just click on this back button. And the Flutter gives you the pop inherently when you're doing one screen to another. And if you don't want that, if you want to use your own pop, if you want to do it on button click somewhere else, just call navigator.pop and it will pop you to the screen that was previously there before you moved from. Alright, so far you have seen the routing to a widget, I mean going from point A to point B. The next one they're going to be seeing is going from point A to point B, or point A to point C, or point A to point D, having to go through named widgets. Now if you have only two widgets present, if you want to go from point A to point B only, you can say go from this space, use my navigator.push, and you can go there. But what if you have multiple screens present or multiple widgets present? You will definitely need to tell the compiler or the application that go from point A to point B, point C, point D, but without having to use the class names. And that's possible by just naming the classes itself. You have multiple widgets present, you just name those widgets up, and you are pretty much able to do it. And I'm going to show you guys how that works. Now, what we're going to do is this route that we created, right? We can even basically categorize this, or we can even say this entire route can be defined at the top of the application also. We can just say, instead of having to create a path every single time, the material app, like I said, is the house. Now this house is able to have this is actually giving you a lot of cool cool or important and definitely needed attributes. And one such attribute is the route attribute. You can just say the routes, and you can define all your routes here by putting it in this way. You can define a dictionary, and in the dictionary you can just say what are the different routes. You can name them one after another. And how do you name them? You just say, for example, the first route will always be /, and you'll say the first route is going to be of context, the current context that it is in, and you can just call the screen 1. All right, and then you have the second widget, or the second route. You're just going to say the second route, and you're just going to again say the context of it, and you're just going to say screen 2. And similarly, you can create multiple routes, and on top of it, should also say what is the initial route that the screen should start on. If the initial route is going to be the second screen, just put slash second here. If it is not, define the base one right here. And you can just create multiple routes like this and go down, and in the space where you're doing a push, remove all of that and put push named. And the push named itself will take the context, it will automatically do it for you. And you can just say here, I think I missed another, I removed a bracket on pressed, I removed, yeah. And the route name is going to be the string that you had the string, right? And the string is going to be basically slash second, whatever you defined. Okay, I just wanted to go. All right, hope you guys did understand this part. So instead of creating this whole route every single time, you are actually defining the path that it needs to take. You can just define it in the routes section here, or the routes key here, and it will automatically define the paths that it needs. So it will create its own material app route, and pretty much we are done. So we have understood about named routes as well. Let's say you have another screen, you have /3 /4 /5 and things like it keeps on growing. You can define all your routes here, and you can just directly call name navigator or push named, provide the current context, and it will automatically understand. We'll just save this up and run it to see if this works. Does work fine. Click on submit, and it throws an error. What does it throw? It says slash first, and it says that should not throw an error. Initial route is set. Yeah, initial route is set. And you also have the routes created. The first widget is created, yes, and we also have the second created, and the context is also created. It throws an error saying could not find a generator for routing settings. Okay, I think this is because the application is not able to pick it up. So it stopped the application, build it again from scratch. This might happen now and then. Do not worry about it, because when you are building it, when you are actually going inside the making changes only to the widgets, the fast reload will happen. If you want to make it to the base application itself, you're like saying you're reconstructing this entire house and you're just adding few things on the outside and all that, you just need to build your application again. So this is going to take a couple of seconds, I guess. Hopefully, okay, this is started up. Yes, it's syncing, and it's throwing an error saying the route contains key is a default home, failed to find pos home not equal to run. If the home property specify, the routes table cannot include entry for slash since it will be redundant. Okay, what we have done? Oh, okay, we are saying if the home property is specified, do not include the initial route. So it can just remove this up, and that's what it's been saying. If the home property is specified, okay, this is there. Stop it and start it again. This is how you debug also. I mean, if you have the home property, you don't need to have the initial route. If you don't have the home property, you need to have the initial route. That's what this error told, and you just corrected that and start it up again. All right, throwing another error. Oh, I think I found the issue. You don't need the home property itself, is what this entire thing is saying. Oh shit, not this one. All right, let me figure this out quickly so that I'm able to answer it for myself as well. All right, sorry about that. So what we did was to define named routes. And during the definition of name routes, what mistake I made was to define the home property also. I just said home, go to the screen one. This is going to be the entry point. So what error it kept throwing was you cannot have the initial route and the home screen present on the same material app. It's like saying it's redundant. Do not do that. It's just saying don't do that. So what the quick fix or the correct fix is to remove the home, and one you just define your initial route. And when you have the initial route only, you'll be able to define named routes, and you can have slash forward slash second forward slash third, and things like that can be happening or can be created. And now we have the named route present, and we just quickly okay, reloaded, click on submit, and it says that navigator is fired, and this print statement is happening, and we are taken to the second screen as well. So click back, it'll pop out and it'll come here. Click back it again, goes. So we successfully defined a named route, which is basically like saying path A to B is slash, path A to C is second, and things like that. You're just defining or naming the route itself. Any more questions here? Okay, Sumit asks, what are the different types of routes there and mostly used in developing? There is no, technically there is no categories of types. Basically just like an extension of it. So if you're going to be building a large application, the best way to do is to define your routes on your home or the main itself or inside the material app itself, so that it's easy for us to build it as we go forward. And if you're just doing like a simple application and you just want to use the first technique or the first method, you can use that. And this is basically just a couple of only techniques that wherein you just transfer your data from point A to point B. And in the next one, we're going to be looking into what specifically is to transfer data from point A to point B. So we have now said go from point A to point B. It's like saying just take a walk from here to there. But what if you want to take some data from point A and give it to point B? And if you want to give some data from point A to point B, we are going to be making use of the constructor of the second class. Now, constructor is a great way to pass on information. The constructor, if you are aware of in the hoops programming concept, it's like a simple way of taking a data from point A and telling that this is the second data that you need to take it and have fun. That's what you're going to be seeing. And that's pretty much what the Flutter also recommends. And that's what you're going to be seeing in a bit. All right, so far we've seen a few interesting informations like understanding routes and things like that, and we did hit up few errors along the way as well. So if you guys have any questions till now, we'll just take it up. I'll just take another quick 1 minute break so that I can regroup and we'll go forward. You can drop any questions that you have. I'll be able to answer you guys right about here. So questions time. Drop any questions if you have. I guess there are about 4 or 5 people watching live. I don't know how the numbers changes, but whoever is watching live, just drop your questions and we'll take it up. Right, so I guess no questions till now, so we'll just get moving. The next step we're going to be looking is to send data from point A to point B. And sending data from point A to point B is pretty much like saying just creating an object of another class. And we'll just for now go back to the not named routes. We'll just have the home page for now. home is going to be screen 1 because you're going to be using the first technique. Yeah, I'm going to be Sumit. Yeah, next step is the parameterized constructor, which I'm going to talk about. Yeah, that's correct. I'll just talk about parameterized constructors now. So what the parameterized constructors mean is that constructor itself was created for creating or passing on objects. So you should basically have push and enter, and this route is going to be material page route, and we have the builder context. We said screen 2. This is what we said, right? Now what till now happening is that we are sending an empty data from here. Now what instead of that we can do is we can go to screen 2 and create something called as a parameterized constructor. Now constructors in Dart is basically very simple to create. And what exactly does constructors do is that it gives you the ability to create an object of it with some data. Now I'm not going to go and dive deep into what constructors are and how it is used, but in Dart specifically, how you create a constructor is just say screen 2, and you can just define your constructor just by saying the key, and you can then say at required this dot value, and you'll go here and just say super of key. And this is basically how a constructor is created. Cannot have null, that's true. I know that. Now what you do is just create a string value, and that's pretty much what is going to be. Can't be null. Yes, I know it can't be null. All right, it's already present. I don't know why it threw that error. Basically, okay, I'm going to come there. It's now throwing the error that you need to pass the key value also along with this. So what we need to do is to have this required data, that is the value that we need to pass from here. And as soon as you pass the data from screen 1 to screen 2, you will be able to officially start passing or transferring data. And constructors are primarily used for that purpose only. You can even do this by putting, I think, question mark. No question mark. Okay, I will keep it as required itself. Keys here. You need to now pass some data, right? I need to say what is the data that I want to pass. I just for now say assignment number. This is the data that I want to pass. It's saying that I need to also pass the key value, required value. This is the key. This key is going to be key. Value is going to be assignment number. So what we have done is that in our constructor, we have said, I need to have a required value, and this required value will then be passed on and saved in this value. So I'm just saying this dot value is what this value will, or this constructor is going to be using, and just directly saying save whatever is being passed from that to here in this parameter called as this dot value. And we in here we're just saying the value is going to be the assignment number. I'm just going to have assignment number as 1 2 3 4 5, something like this. This is going to be assignment number. Now what I can do is go here, and when this application is created, right, this value will, when the screen is created, this value will be present. I just directly need to just print it for now and see if that is happening. So I'll just go and print this data, or I'll just directly set it to the text itself. Is my screen transmitting? Yes, it's my screen transmitting. Assignment number, right? I need to create an assignment number. create a spacer, text, assignment number is equal to missing this dot value, spacer. Save this up and it's fired. When I click this, voila, our data is transferred from the screen 1 to screen 2 with the help of the constructor that we have. And let's say that you have multiple constructor values. Let's say you want to pass this assignment number, the student name, and all of that. You'll again create another value. We'll just make it required again this time, and we'll say this dot student name. All right, and you just need to say what is the type of this variable. This type is going to be string, and pretty much you're done. And you'll go here, it'll throw an error because we need 2 required parameters, and you've just defined the required parameter of value only. So I'll just put student name is equal to coder monk. Sorry, colon coder monk. And you just said construct this screen 2 with this value only. And this, when you say construct the screen 2 with this value only, they're technically passing the data. So we'll go here, and the student name is here, and we will remove this. We'll put this dot student name. Save this up, and throws an error. What error does it throw? It says screen to matching declared. Okay, this is again the problem that I told. Sometimes the fast reload won't work. It says that there is no variable called a student name present. Is it so? Yeah, this is the student name. It's working fine only. Wait for it to start. Any questions till now, guys? This should work fine properly. This will definitely work fine. Just tell me if you have any questions, and we can take it from here. All right, so just click the submit button. All right, it says the navigator is fired, and the student name is also getting transferred. So we're technically passing data from the first screen to the second screen. Collapse the sidebar so that no need to scrolling horizontally. Yeah, I would like to do that, but if I do that, the screen space will become very small, and you guys will not be able to see the screen. And I know what you're talking about. This should be fine because I have zoomed in this. So if you say this is too zoomed, this is zoomed. I don't want to like you guys to not be able to see the code that I'm writing. So that's the reason why I haven't collapsed the sidebar. And also I've just not cool. You guys able to see it? Cool. Any questions till now, guys? Because the last one we're going to be looking into something called as the hero class or the hero widget that will help us do this smooth transition between the screen 1 and screen 2. And with that, we will be technically ending the stream. I also have another topic to cover, which is to load plugins, and the plugins loading and things like that we'll see about last 15 to 20 minutes. So any questions till now, and we'll just move on to the next topic of hero class, introducing the hero widget. And using hero widget, you can create this cool animation effect, and it will be able to do that. I would like to also add a simple image here so that it's not like too dry for us to look into. Just quickly go here, I'll find a good picture. Let's say image.network. I just need to pass the network here, right? I just need to pass it. I quickly go find an image for me to so it'll definitely throw an error, I know that. Yeah, it says no host is present. I'll go to pixels, face, some face I'll take from here. There's too much faces, bro. Portfolio, portrait, yeah, portrait should do. My favorite player. We'll take the player, my favorite player. Okay, I found a good image. Oh, yeah. All right, we have the personal details of my favorite player. So his name is Kodur Monk. His assignment number is 1233456. His last four submissions are this. And this is a very crude application. Again, we are not like building something really complex. We're just trying to understand the concepts of it. Or the super keyword is to basically say whatever you are passing here, whatever the data you're passing here, pass it on to the stateless widget also. We just like saying, so what we are doing is basically is like inheriting a class. The concept of inheritance says that when you are basically the parent and you're passing some qualities to your child, and the child is now able to you're not technically saying the child is trying to learn something new, and you should also be able to know about it. And that's exactly what the super is doing. You're saying whatever the constructor is being present, you pass it on to the super as well, so the super is also knowing about it, and it is also able to lay out the field for us. And that's exactly what the super keyword is doing. And in Dart and in any oops concept or oops programming language, there isn't much change around this. This is the same super keyword that's being used in Python. As far as I know, Dart uses it, and the super also being used in bunch of other classes, a bunch of other programming languages as well. So it's a concept under the inheritance in OOPS or the OOPS programming concepts, and that's what the super keyword is basically doing. It's basically saying this is what I'm actually acquiring. You also know about it to the parent. In this example, the parent is the stateless widget which we are inheriting. All right, so far we have seen about constructing a named route, pushing the named route, and also now able to pass data between the first and second. If I go back here and I go here, you see that there is some kind of an animation, right? This thing's going down and this thing coming up, and you can see that this entire page is getting loaded. If you see, this entire page is getting loaded, but I don't want that. I want to only load my home page here alone, that is the body alone. I want to keep the app bar there itself. I don't want to load everything else. So in order to do that, we're going to be looking into this class called as the hero class. We looked into this. Yeah, animating screen transition is going to be using the hero widget, and it's a very simple widget, nothing complex about it. And when whatever you defined inside your hero widget is basically taken into consideration when the screen or the widget is being built. So if there's a hero widget present in the screen A and there is a hero widget present in the screen B, what will happen is that the Flutter will understand that I need to give importance to this widget and it'll add that first or load that first. And that's the crude concept behind it. But what will that do for us is that it will give us this good looking animation also, which I'll show you guys in a bit. Code here, code here. You have a bunch of column inside this, right? We'll take this entire thing, cut it, take a hero, create a hero, and pull it inside. Similarly, you go to the first screen, remove this entire center. We'll give it a tag, screen, and the child will put center. All right, so it's stored it up, it's reloaded. When you click on code, you'll see that the entire application is pretty much moving much more smoothly. But in order to see that, I think it's better to stop and start the application again. Sometimes you need to do that. The fast reload is not very cool about it. So if you go and see the description about the hero, it says, where is the hero? Yeah, this is the one. It says that it adds an hero transition. It gives that importance to it. It says the heroes and navigators overlay stack must be access aligned for all this. It'll work. To make the animation look good, it's critical that the widget tree for the heroes in both locations be essentially identical. So what exactly it means is that it need to be having an identical setup. And if it's having that identical setup, then whatever is not required, it will not get constructed. Whatever is required alone, it will get this, give this smooth transition. So we'll see it for ourselves. I'm hopefully giving it inside scaffold body, and it's also inside the scaffold body. Everything looks good. It does this smooth transition between the screen 1 and the screen 2, and it's like not doing some kind of a crazy movement. And this change is pretty much evident when you have like an image here also. Let's say that I want to have an image here also, and I'll do that. I'll just take the same image. I'll go my first screen, which is basically here, and after assignment submission, I'll insert my hero's image. Save this up, and present his image is present here. And what I'm going to do next is remove this hero from here, remove this tag also from here, and give importance to my mistake. Remove this also, and give importance to my image alone. I want to have the smooth transition to my image alone, so I'll just take this part, I'll just say the child is going to be the image network, and I just close this up. So I'm saying this is going to be my hero, this is my hero image, and when I want to do the transition from this hero image to the next screen, but the bottom half is different, but the images are same. So what will happen is that we'll just remove this quickly as well. Save this up, or it's reloaded fine. All right, so that's pretty much how the transition going to look like. So if you have like a bunch of important images that you want to quickly load and things like that, that image will be first loaded, or that information will be first loaded when the screen routing takes place, and the animation is going to look much more smoother. And that's going to bring us to the end of the concept of routing and navigation. And you can add hero widget to anything in your application, in your stack, and you'll be much better. You'll see much cooler animations, and you can add much better animations to it as you go along. There's also another widget called as animation itself, where you can use that to do this Bezier animation. You can define your own Bezier curves, and all of that can also happen. Maybe some other day or some other session we'll take a look into that. All right, we've seen till here now. Any questions so far, guys? Hopefully I'm streaming till now and people are still watching. Any questions till now? I'll be waiting for another 2 to 3 minutes for you guys to like reply back with any questions. I'll be happy to take any questions that you guys have, and we'll move along as we go forward. We can learn and do stuff as well. How many of you just watching this live have mobile application development experience? When I ask experience, it's not necessarily like years and years of experience. Anybody who's watching live has any understanding of mobile application development and things like that, or if you have played around with any other application or frameworks, Just let me know so that I guess know I know about it. Is the tag used in hero has its importance? It definitely has its importance because you're telling your compiler that this is going to be the tag that you need to animate. We are basically saying if you tag two things together, that's going to get animated cleanly. So we'll just say C for ourselves here. So I've given a couple of tags here, right? I'll say hero screen one. So I'll just say hero image, and I go here and I'll see hero image again. So it'll know that when you are actually going to be in the screen one, I click on screen two. You see for yourself that the tagged ones is not moving, everything around it is moving, right? Can you see for yourself? So that's basically the use of the tag. If you give another tag here, and it'll understand that these two are different items, and it will not do animation. And if you see here, yeah, that's pretty much what is happening. You need to, the tag is very important to tell the compiler that these two hero images or these three images or these three widgets is basically what I want to animate when I go from one screen to another screen. So do that properly. That's what exactly you're telling. The tag is to put all of these under a bunch of just tagging them together so that when the animation happens, that is actually static. It is not like doing all this crazy changes. And that's the importance of tag. Yes, it's very important. You have to give the same tag name. Only if you give the same tag name, the animation will look like it's happening, or else it will just look like a page animation. It will remove the page, and it'll, if you can see it very cleanly or very keenly, you'll see that when you click on here, you can see that the app bar is also closing along with it. And I'll say this up again, and when you click on here, you'll see that the image is not moving, but everything around it is moving. And that's what is the importance of the tag key in your hero class or hero widget. All right, so moving along, I have another important slide to cover, which is the concept of adding dependencies. Now, adding dependencies is a very, very important one, because once you understand how to add dependencies into your project, you'll find that there's a lot of cool things that you can do. In order to add your dependencies, as soon as you create a Flutter project, you will have something called as pubspec.yaml. And this is basically like a configuration file. It has all the information about your name of your application, which is this right here. I'll just zoom in. Right, so this has the name of the application, and post that it just gives a description. And what this pubspec.yaml is used for is basically a configuration to build out your APK. When you're building out an APK, which is like the file that is going to be running on your basically your Android devices, is an Android package kit. And when you are building that APK out, it needs to have some data inside it, right? Like name of the application, what does the application do, and what do you have to publish it to if you want to publish it to pub.dev and things like that. So this pubspec.yaml is used for that. And if you go down here, you will find this column called as dependencies. And the first dependencies it will automatically have is the Flutter and the SDK of Flutter. And it will also have the Cupertino icons. This Cupertino icons is specifically for iPhone and building iOS related applications. We'll not worry about it. It says very clearly it's iOS style icons, and we will not be using that. But what we are trying to use is to use an external Flutter 3P up plugin. And I'll just show you guys this link where there's a bunch of useful plugins, which when you are able to use for yourself, you will be finding it like extremely useful. So let it load here. This is the pub. It says that Dart packages, right? And this is the link that you need to go to. And if you go to this link, you will find for yourself that there's a bunch of these useful plugins that you can make use of. and all these plugins are basically connected via the network and internet, and it'll auto download it, it'll auto use the class. And this is basically for pipeline building applications, where you don't have to necessarily have all the code, all the class, all the libraries in your local. You can have it in a cloud, and you can fetch whatever is required, and that's what is going to happen. So what you're going to do is to add dependencies, and adding dependencies are very, very easy. As soon as you find the name of the dependency, for example, I know for sure that there's a dependency which is called as HTTP. And as soon as I know the HTTP is my dependency, I just put the HTTP here, colon, and I'll just leave it blank. If I leave it blank, it will fetch the latest one. And let's say that I want to fetch some specific version of that that package. HTTP package has multiple versions. Let's say I want to fetch something like this, 0.12.0, something like this is going to be like an version of the HTTP. It should be the version. If I leave it blank, it will just fetch the latest one, and it will reload my entire package for that. So as soon as you fill this up, it will just say pub get, pub upgrade, and pub outdated. It will analyze if my entire Flutter packages are present in full version. If it's not, it will auto update it for me. But what I need to do is something called pub get. And when I click on this pub get, it will run this command called flutter pub get, and it will automatically pull all the required dependencies. It will check the dependencies, whatever is added newly, in this example the HTTP, it will pull it out, and it will build this class for me. So far, if I don't have that pub, it says this pub specs has been edited just to get dependencies, and it will do it for me. Yeah, it's now done. Now if I don't put this HTTP, or if I don't add this dependency, I will not be able to import anything from this specific class, this specific plugin. And what the use of this plugin is to do is to basically fetch data in REST API. Say that there's a REST API that is present, and you want to hit this URL and get some data. You want to push some data. You want to delete some data. All of these actions are going to be happening. There's this famous package called as request or URL lib3 in Python. Very, very useful for accessing REST APIs. Similarly for Dart and Flutter, HTTP is the package. If you have the HTTP package, you can make REST calls, and you can fetch data and all of that. So what is the important one that you need to know? If you want to have include your HTTP, you will just say import from the package HTTP. You will pull the HTTP.dart. Now, if you don't have the pubspec finishing this installation, or if it's not able to find the dependency, this import statement is not possible. You will just remove it to show you guys. Go back here, it will detect that get dependency, and as soon as I do the flutter pub get and it will finish to loading the dependency, it will not be able to understand, since it's already downloaded and installed. It's picking it up, but otherwise it will not be able to pick it up. So it's important that you need to add your dependencies. You can in similar fashion add any dependencies that you need. If you see it's throwing an error, it's saying that it's not present. Now I've done again the get dependency, and it's completed. It's able to import it from my local, and that's how you are able to import 3P plugins. I have dropped the link in the chat box. You can just pick it up, and you can see there are a bunch of cool animation related dependencies. There is a bunch of cool things, like you can do complex stuff like animation, you can do simple animation, you can use for state management, you can use dependencies or Flutter plugins for a bunch of other activities as well. So that's pretty much what these dependencies are useful for, and you're going to be looking into some important ones in the next session. And I'm just going to be pretty much ending this this stream in about 5 to 10 minutes now. I have a few more slides to cover, but I'll just be happily able to cover it in the next session. I'll just wait for any questions. Sumit has another question. Can you update the application just by updating the dependencies without affecting the application UI? Yes, you can definitely do that. You can definitely update the application without having to touch the UI also. But let's say that you have some kind of a change here. Let's say that you are including this animation related plugin, and this animation related plugin is outdated now. Sometime created this app 6 months ago, and right now the plugin is outdated. There is no kind of an update for this plugin. And what you need to do at that point is to, if you remove the import statement itself, your entire application is going to get affected. So you need to make sure that you're keeping things on date without getting outdated. So you need to always make sure the maintenance effort is going in. If you don't have anything that is affecting the UI of the application, then you can definitely do the get dependencies, like you can update the dependencies without it affecting the entire UI. But there's this 95%, I would say 90 to 95% chance that if there is going to be a huge dependency update, it might break your application. And that's what is also this important thing that you need to remember. The application once created is not going to always run. It'll have a bunch of dependencies that is going not just from the plugin side. The Flutter SDK itself will have some updates. The OS might have an update, and when OS gets updated, it might not support few dependencies. And that's how the application development lifecycle from the developer point of view also works. Hopefully I did answer your question. Let's see. All right, I'm going to be ending the stream in about 5 minutes. Sumit, yes, my next live session will probably be around Friday, I guess. I also have classes running in the Unacademy platform itself, bunch of free classes. You can definitely check that out. If you don't have, like if you are going to look for free classes in Unacademy platform, you can just check it out. You might need, I'm not sure if you are from Unacademy platform, you might need a referral code. Just draw this referral code and you'll be able to access all the free live classes. There's bunch of parallel classes running as well in Unacademy related to REST API building and also cracking programming interviews and things like that. So just use this. This is my referral code or invite code. This is not referral code. Just use this referral invite code to get access to free live classes. And I can see you guys there as well if you guys are interested to. Hopefully I did answer that. So this is my invite code. Check it out. All right, finalizing the application, we've already finalized it. And a quick recap is to what we did. We did understand about routing. Routing has there's a four different concept routing itself, right? The first information was how do you first of all go from a screen 1 to screen 2. Screen 1 is here. We learned about routing primarily. And following routing, we also looked into named routes. And post name routes, we understood about transferring data. And finally about hero widget. What is the use of hero widget, and especially what is the hero widget useful for when the routing is involved, and understood a little bit or gave a brief introduction to dependencies and how you can add dependencies in your using your pubspec.yaml. And when you use your pubspec, that's where all the configuration goes into picture, and that's where you are able to include a lot of stuff. So that's what I really wanted to cover, guys. Hopefully I did give you guys a little bit of in-depth understanding of how you can go forward with your Flutter application. I'll be continuing my Flutter application video series on this channel for about another 3 to 4 sessions. So make sure to stick along. We'll build complex stuff as well as we go forward. Let me close it out. Any questions you guys have, you can definitely answer. You can definitely ask now. And catch me on the Unacademy platform also. Unacademy platform is pretty much like free. I'm taking free classes at this point of time. There is nothing paid. You can access my Unacademy live class using the referral code Monk. Just enter this referral code and you can see me there. You can access my live classes there. I don't really get any incentives if you use my code, so don't worry. I'm not going to do anything crazy about it. Check me out on Unacademy. I have currently live classes running on Fast API, which is a Python-based web server building framework. And importantly, I'm also doing a session on cracking programming interviews. If you see that, if you see my description that I'm actually an SDE2 with Amazon, and I'm actually helping you guys crack programming interviews. There's going to be few sessions about that as well in Unacademy platform. Check me out there. I'll see you guys. Hopefully this session was informative for you guys. I'll see you guys pretty much in the next session. Drop any questions you have now. I'll probably stream for another 2 to 3 minutes and pretty much end the stream right there. All right, what else is there? All right. I guess there's no more questions and it's time for me to leave. Hopefully you guys did have good session today. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks Sumit again for joining. Thanks everybody for joining. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, it's Bharat from Coder Monk YouTube channel. Check my channel out as well, guys. See you.